failure is built into the game. So if you don't expect it, like you got to go in expecting it. That's part of the game. And for me, that's part of the game. If you're an actor and you think that you're not going to get rejected, you should not be an actor.
Fellas, we good to go, yeah? All right. So not that we haven't been going. We've been going for a while now. And this is a very raw, two dudes, in the gym shooting the shit. But speaking of your podcast, dude, I had the privilege to be on your podcast last year. Or maybe it was in 2017, actually.
It may have been the first year. I think it was 2017.
Yeah, it was the first year that you did it. 10,000 no's.
10,000 no's, yeah.
And it's a very unique take on really overcoming adversities, setbacks, challenges, roadblocks, inner demons. Yeah. How did you decide on that title, and why did you name it that title?
Well, the title comes from, I had read all of Malcolm Gladwell's books, and in Outliers, I think it is, he talks about his theory of 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. It takes 10,000 hours, and he cites all different examples from Bill Gates to the Beatles and everything. So I think that was somewhere in my head. And this is years ago. A buddy of mine that I had done a play with in New York, he moved out to LA after I did. His parents were visiting from Philadelphia, and his dad said, "How's it going? How's acting?" I said, "It's good. I go now, I get asked to go speak to MFA programs."
What's MFA?
Like Masters of Fine Arts.
Got it.
Like a grad school.
Sure.
In LA, when these kids, or sometimes adults, are about to graduate and they're about to go into the real world as actors, and I'll just go and basically shoot the shit with them. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, you're allowed to swear.
And ask answer any questions they have. Yeah. And I started to realize that I was telling them, I said, basically, what you're about to do is I am told no for a living. That's what it is. Like,
that's an interesting way to look at it.
I mean, it's kind of, if I think about how many times in a week that whether it's a voiceover audition or for a TV show or a movie, it's always, you're kind of, unless you're on something where you're contracted for a long time, you're auditioning, or you're making tapes or whatever it is. And the numbers are that most of the time you are told no. Even if you're successful, What impact did that have on you in the beginning when you first started to get your first handful of no's?
Because really it's rejection. You're in the business of getting rejected, hoping for that one gold mine of TV show, movie, whatever.
Yeah. I think I was lucky in that I have an athletic background, and that, like, every coach that I've had, I've been very fortunate to have some good coaches, and it's all, it's like it's been drilled into me from such a young age that it's like, you're working towards something for the season, and then every week you're working towards something. If it's football, it's every week you're working towards Saturday's opponent, and how are you preparing for that opponent, and it's just kind of, it's all about resilience. It's all about staying on path and all of that, staying on the course. And I took a lot of that mindset with me into acting. Now, to be fair, I don't think I realized it was to the degree that it is.
Really?
I think I still was like, yeah. Like I took classes.
So you're thinking like, I might get a few no's.
This is what I thought. I remember being in an acting class really early on, and they said something like, look around, 5% of you will be here in 10 years or some crazy thing like that. And I was like, well, who's the other, 4%? Because I'm
one.
Yeah, I'm
who
gonna,
else?
one of
You?
the guys who's here. And I think I thought, yeah, it'll be hard, but it's going to,
Yeah.
it's not going to be that bad. And there have been times when you're like, there are times when it pummels you. And it depends when you ask me. Like, you could go through the last 25 years, and it depends when you pull me aside to ask what my mindset was. I'd like to think I'm, in general, pretty positive and pretty resilient, but there are times where you're just like,
Sure.
you get into a cynical head, you get into a head where you're beaten and you feel like you got to go recuperate, and I think it always ends up coming back to just some of the fundamentals, stuff that you talk about all the time.
Yeah. So one of my favorite statements I like to make when I'm speaking on stage is that people overestimate what they can accomplish in the first year or two.
Yeah.
And it could be business, it could be of fitness, it could be of acting, right? They overestimate what they could accomplish and how easy it'll be, and they underestimate how much time, money, effort, energy, rejection it will take. And I think what I'm hearing you say is while you knew like, hey, I'm going to be part of that 5% that's going to make it, and you certainly have, you're like, yeah, it's going to be hard, but it's not going to be that hard.
Right.
But I really appreciate your transparency in explaining how hard it is to go from audition to audition.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like I was so dumb that it actually helped me. It's like it's.
Do you believe that ignorance is bliss?
No, I think in a certain way. Back then, it's like I didn't really. When I think about what I did in the beginning to just get started, it was so much work just to get up and running, and I think there was such a huge desire and such a huge life force toward it that like nothing was gonna stop me.
Wow.
That's that. So, and in a way it was ignorant. It was like, I didn't really, I don't know. Yeah. In a certain way that at that time, at least it was like I was in, I call it like willful denial. You just don't look at those stats that I'm telling you, you're told no for a living. You don't look at it like that. Everyone that you get, you're like, I'm going to get this one. But you don't get it. You don't get everyone. I mean, it's like I told, Donovan is playing baseball now, and that's my son. He is almost 12, and he was, talking about like he didn't get a hit. I think he had didn't get a hit in the game, and he's bummed out. And I said, look, it is the best guys don't reach base 6 or 7 times out of every 10 at bats. Those are the best guys. So failure is built into the game. So if you don't expect it, like you got to go in expecting it. That's part of the game. And for me, that's part of the game. If you're an actor and you think that you're not going to get rejected, you should not be an actor. You're going to get rejected. Like that's that's the game.
And dude, that's true for like everything I can think of. Like, failure is built into the game of building your body. I used to be a fat fuck. When I started working out, my goal was just to get in great shape so I can ask this girl Nakia to the prom. It was in high school, right? And failure, in other words, plateaus or injuries, were built into building the body.
Right.
Same with business. Failure was built into building the empire. I think a lot of people kind of forget that, or maybe haven't learned that. So when you're going to these things and you're talking to young actors or people who want to become actors and talent and get on the stage or in front of a camera, does this conversation come up that failure is built into the model, or are they asking more naive questions?
Yeah, I mean, like that's for the podcast. I actually have a T-shirt for you.
Oh, nice.
The back of the T-shirt is "Failure is opportunity," which comes from my dad. Used to say, my dad was not an athlete, but he used to come to all of our games, and he would always say, "Failure is just opportunity in disguise." And I do see it that way. It's like, and that's what I've learned in the podcast. Is like I sit down with you and other entrepreneurs, or I sit down with pro athletes or whoever it is. It's not acting is actually, it's not unique to acting. It's all of us.
Yeah.
It's literally every single one of us. It doesn't matter what you do. I don't even think in this day and age those safe jobs or safe careers don't even really fully exist anymore, because everything feels like it's like, in flux.
Yeah, yeah.
So so everybody's got to deal with it to some degree, or they have to deal with it in their personal life. There are illnesses and there are deaths and families, and that's part of the whole game.
But I would almost.
Do I talk to people about that? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it depends.
Do they ask about it? Do they even know to ask? Like, hey, Matt, what do you do with the rejection when you're rejected over and over again? Or are they so naive and ignorant about it?
It depends where they are in their career. Most people are just like, like, I want to talk to you about it. I want to, I'm just starting, and I want to talk to you about how you got into it. And now I go, listen to the podcast. It's going to tell you more than what I can tell you over a coffee or on a phone call. Go listen not only to me, but listen to all these other people. Some of them are actors, but in any field, like, that's going to help you. And then the other part of it is, like, you've got to actually experience it yourself.
The failure.
Well, how do I become an actor it's such a vast question, because so many people have so many different paths to
You
it.
get that question a lot?
Oh, all the time.
I would imagine so, because everyone thinks they can act. Like, I know I'm not made for the TV, and I can't act.
Actually, you got the character. What's your character's name that you do?
Oh, Vlad. Yeah, yeah. I think that's more.
I'm going to put Vlad. I'm going to cast him in something.
Yeah, you should.
He's awesome. No, a lot of people say, how do you become an actor? Or they say, I used to bartend. In the first 10 years I was bartending. I was in New York while I was kind of coming up.
Yeah.
And get a couple of drinks in people, and everybody's like, I wanted to act. I want to act. I think I can act, and you're like, that's great. And I'm going to, encourage them. But I'm like, that's great. If it happens, I actually have a friend that he worked on Wall Street, and he used to say it all the time. He'd come in, have a bunch of drinks, and he would say it. And finally, after like 2 years, I was like, dude, do it or don't do it. But we can't keep talking about it.
Right.
And he ended up quitting his Wall Street job. He's not an actor, but he started a whole singer-songwriter group, and he's an entrepreneur in that space, but he kind of took it and went with it. But at a certain point, it's like, yeah, I mean, there are plenty of people out there more talented than me that may not do this. They just didn't choose to put their they didn't choose to pursue this as their life's choice.
Yeah.
And so they're not in a position to work. They might be really funny. They might be really talented. But if they didn't do it, then it's kind of it's kind of a conversation that goes nowhere. Yeah.
So you grew up in Westchester, New York.
Yeah.
And you're not an only kid.
Nope.
I think you've got a brother.
An older sister, an older brother.
An older brother, older sister. You played lacrosse.
Yeah.
Definitely athletics runs in the family. At what point did you decide, or were you encouraged by mom and dad? I mean, I haven't heard you ever say all the times we've hung out that mom or dad was into acting or film or any of that.
No, I mean, it's very funny, man.
Like, what leads you down that path?
Whew, so it was something that when it happened, it felt like, it was completely out of left field. When I look back in retrospect, it makes a lot more sense. But similar to your story, it started with a girl. I had a little bit of that.
There's always a girl, man. There's always a girl.
Did
you know, here's a true story for you. The guy, the Navy SEAL who killed Osama bin Laden, he became a Navy SEAL because a girl rejected him. He lived in Butte, Montana. His name is Robert O'Neill. He lived in Butte, Montana. A girl rejected him, and it was around high school age, 18, 19 years old. And he's like, this is a fucking tiny town that I live in. Every time I see this chick or everywhere I see her, I just feel the pain of that rejection.
Yeah.
I'm going to go join the Marine Corps. So he goes to the Marine Corps recruiting station. They were closed. the Navy guy next door is like, "Psst, kid, come here," right? And the guy, like a Navy SEAL, didn't know how to swim, and so he's like, "Well, I don't want to be on a ship." No, you can be a SEAL. I don't know how to swim. We'll teach you. The guy becomes a Navy SEAL, joins SEAL Team 6, ends up killing Osama bin Laden, all because of a girl.
Yeah.
So it's funny. Women and girls have launched so many careers and paths, and it's nuts. But I'm curious to hear yours.
Yeah. So mine was I was in college. I was playing lacrosse at Boston College, and I had finished my sophomore year, and I wanted to study abroad junior year. Anybody that goes and studies abroad, I was thinking Australia for some reason. Some upperclassmen had gone there. It sounded great, but you travel or you go abroad the second semester of the spring semester of the year. That would have been junior year lacrosse season, and I didn't want to miss the season. Yeah. So I ended up going and doing this program in Italy between sophomore and junior year. I was going out with a girl who went to BC as well. She was going over to study like art in Italy, and I was going over to do this little town called Perugia, and it was just like I was taking Italian, and basically what happened was, I mean, it's like it's kind of the first girl that I really thought was serious. In retrospect, I look back and I'm like,
sure,
was not, what I think I thought it was. But I think what happened was before I left, I started having these, well, you've had panic attacks. I had never heard that term before, but I had these like rumblings. And when I went to Italy, I was by myself and something came up in the relationship. She wasn't in the same town, but we started talking, and I kind of was like, well, we don't see eye to eye on a couple of things. She was basically like, that's who I am. Wow. That's it. We're done. And I was like broken up with basically in Italy and by myself, out of my element, like lacrosse and Boston College and all this stuff. I had a nickname. I had this, it's almost like I had built this whole persona that was doing well, but it wasn't fully me. And I basically started having these like panic attacks there that were scaring the shit out of me, but I didn't know what they were. And my sister had given me a journal. And like, if you go back and look, I still have this journal. You go back and look, like the first couple of entries are like, today I went to the piazza. It's like boring shit, obligatory stuff. And all of a sudden this breakup happened, and I just grabbed the journal and I went to a church, and I went to the grass in front of the church, and I poured out my heart into this journal. Like I filled the journal. In Italy. Bought another journal, filled it. Like all this shit just came pouring out.
Holy
and shit. It was like all of this stuff that I think of myself as having a happy childhood, but there were also things going on with my parents. My parents split at the end of when I got out of college. So they were together for a long time. They kind of stayed together and then split. I think there was a lot of shit that I took in, and it just rumbled and came out. And in that journal are the first traces of me saying, maybe I want to be a writer, maybe I want to be an actor. Like it just poured out, but I was so scared. I was like, what? Like I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I mean, it was like a voice coming out. They talk about the call.
Yeah.
It really,
dude, that's crazy.
It was the call. And I was scared shitless.
Pain, rejection, fear are oftentimes the triggers for the inner voice to speak up. Because previous to that, I mean, let's face it, you even said you're building this persona. You've got a nickname, you're playing lacrosse, you kind of have an idea of the path you're going to go down. I'm going to be a lawyer. So those are all very safe things. Like everyone's done that, like predictable. We can see that. But I wonder how long deep down inside you've had that in you, but it wasn't until that pain or it just came pouring out.
Well, that's what's funny. At the time, I was like, what the, it's literally like.
It's probably new for you too, right?
Oh my God. It was so scary. I was like, what? I'm thinking like, I'm going to stop playing lacrosse. And then what happened was I became like on fire with like finding my voice. I was like, I just I found a perspective. Like I found like there was something inside me that was like, this is what I got to do. This is what I'm going to do. And then I went back to school. I had this experience. I went back home and I went and I played fall ball. And I went through fall. I went back to it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was playing fall ball and it was the end. It was like probably November, like the end of fall ball. And we're running around. I remember running around Shea Field. And I just thought to myself, I wish I would roll my ankle. I just want to get out of here.
Ooh.
And I was like, this is crazy. You're not on scholarship. Like you got, and I went into the coach and I was like, I think I'm done. And he was like, think about it. You got a slot on the team. And I was like, I've thought about it and I'm done. And so it took me, like I had the experience over the summer, but then it was like another 4 months or something like that before I actually had the balls to go do it.
Yeah.
Then I did it. And then I was like, what the hell did I just do? And then I went out for a play that spring and everybody's like, what?
So without any formal training,
no training.
you went out and auditioned for a play.
I went out, I auditioned for a play, didn't get anything. A month later, I didn't get it. A month later, went out for this play and it was a one act and it wasn't even in the theater at Boston College.
What's a one act?
A one act is like there's no intermission. It's a shorter play.
Got it.
And I was the lead of it, but it was small and it was like in a lecture hall. It was literally like if we, did the play here,
Right,
and like,
right.
it's like where you would take classes,
Yeah.
And I did it and I was like, I'm going to be an actor. Literally, it was 2-night performance.
Huh.
And I was like, this is it.
How many years ago was that?
That was in, let's see, junior year, so 1993, so it's 26 years ago. I just had my 25-year reunion.
Nice.
So 26 years ago.
26 years ago.
Yeah.
And here you are today. You're making good on it.
And here I am
This
today.
is what you do.
Yeah.
So at what point? Well, I can't assume. Maybe you never got formal training. Maybe
I did. I went to New York. I studied there.
Okay.
Forever, and I still study. Kind of never done studying, but I did not do a master's program. Okay. So I didn't go do a conservatory like Juilliard or Yale or one of those. Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating, man.
So
now let's fast forward, and you get married to Deidre. Kids, and I mean you're all over the country, filming, acting. How do you hold your life balance together?
I mean, I've been lucky in that I've shot a lot of stuff here in LA in the last long while. I mean, right now I'm just working on something in New York, but it was kind of back and forth. If this goes another season, that could be like I could be gone for a chunk.
Yeah.
We were talking before about New Orleans. I was there for a couple of months. That's the longest I've ever been gone. And I was able to come back because I was working on shows in LA at the time. So I came back for like a week. Every 3 weeks, I was back for a week. So, but still, that's tough. The flip side is when I'm not working, which is sometimes more than I want it to be, I'm really around. Like I'm walking the kids to school every morning and like I'm around.
So it's a bit of a I own a business. My schedule's pretty predictable.
Yeah.
1 weekend, 2 weekends out of a month, I'm traveling to a speaking gig, a seminar that I'm going to speak at. Otherwise, I'm taking calls and meetings, et cetera, all day. But then I'm home with the wife and kids.
Yeah.
What I don't have is like off times where I could just walk my kids to school or spend all day with them, unless it's like a designated weekend, right?
Yeah.
And you have that. It's a bit of a feast or famine in what you do as an actor.
Yeah.
Do your kids understand? Do they have questions? Like, Dad, I don't get you're here for 3-4 weeks straight, and now you got to leave for 3 weeks.
They have, well, so I do now. Yeah, I always say to people, it's almost like it's less work when you're working than it is when you're not working. The not being, not working as an actor. First of all, I have the podcast now, which takes up time. I write as well. And then there always seems to be things to do. So I'm like the home office, I'm always doing something. So they sometimes don't even know when I'm officially working or
Gotcha.
not working.
Right.
And then they'll know, like, I went to New York for a few days, so they know I'm gone. We talk, we FaceTime. Deirdre has them solo for that time. And they've kind of, it just, this is their reality.
They're normal. Yeah.
So it's funny that you say that you don't travel. I feel like I always see you like on planes and going stuff, but it's like when I see, through social media, when I see you, I always feel like you are more of a jet setter than I am. I always say, like,
I think you go on longer stretches.
Maybe I go on longer stretches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine's 3 days tops and I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
The real point I was trying to get here, and I think you did a really good job explaining, is that kids and families are resilient
yeah.
and that they understand. Because people often ask me, hey, when you're at a speaking event or when you're working late night, because there's some, like, when we're in a sprint in business, like, I'm working till 11. My kids, I didn't see them wake up. I didn't see them go to bed. And they're like, aren't you afraid of the damage it's going to cause your kids? I'm like, no, I'm not, because kids are so resilient.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's proof of that. It's just that's their normal.
Yeah.
With your wife, with your kids.
But what I always say, if I ever talk about you, I'm like telling someone about you, I'm always like, oh yeah, it's almost like your success, which I'm just so impressed with you. I tell you that every time I see you. I'm just like,
thank you.
It's amazing. This gym is amazing. The whole empire.
All
is
right,
amazing.
stop it.
But that is always a footnote. That's always like I breeze through, like, oh yeah, he does really well, but he's a great dad, great husband, and a super warm, encouraging guy.
Oh,
that's the thing about you that I value. The other stuff is cool, but what makes you unique is every time I'm with you, you are so present, and I imagine you're that way. I know you're that way with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that I've interviewed that are, I would say way more successful than me, that and are way more kind of all over the world than me. That's what they say. They're like, it's quality, not quantity.
Yeah.
I get a little bit of both. Sometimes I get a ton of quantity,
Yeah.
But then I think no matter what, if it's a lot or it's a little, it's like hopefully having moments with your kids where you're really, really connected with them. And I mean, people do have to work. You gotta.
Right. You have to make money. No one's going to hand us food. Yeah.
I mean, you can't. And sometimes it's. I don't know. Sometimes there's something nice that happens when I'm away for a little bit and come back, and sometimes they're in a great groove without me.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you come back with a new energy and a new.
Yeah.
So.
Well said. So these next two topics that I want to talk about are some that really fascinate me. I mean, here we are, we're sitting in my gym, BK Strength, and I always say, like, this gym is about building physical strength and mental toughness, mental strength. Obviously, we talked about your mental toughness, the ability to take rejection, to hear no's as an actor over and over again, and to keep going and auditioning, because that's your path, that's what you're going to do, and you've learned that someone rejecting you isn't necessarily a definition of who you are. It's just, hey, you're not a good fit for this role.
Right.
On to the next one. That's great. You're consistently in great shape. I've known you for a few years now. You're consistently in great shape. What does your program, your diet, your workout program look like?
Thank you, first of all, because
You're welcome.
I think you're constantly jacked and your traps bother me. I've kind of, I really, when I think about,
Like, are you just genetically in awesome shape?
no, I think I'm genetically prone to being skinny. I think if I didn't work out, I'd really be like
Okay.
this big. People get pissed when they say, I'm like, I have to eat a lot or I'll get really, and women will get mad. And I'm like, it's a problem for a guy. I played football growing up. I could not put weight on. Joe Weider, weight gain, everything, eating ton, just nothing put it on. And then I put some weight on in college. But I'm never, this is kind of roughly what I graduated college, like 6'4", 200-ish.
Huh.
195, 200. That's
Yeah.
pretty much it. But I've been consistent, like I started lifting in 8th grade. Our varsity football coach, so my brother's 3 years older, so he played football as well. Our varsity coach, Jim Capalbo, would open the gym in the mornings, and me and a couple other buddies would go in, and I always did that. I'd go into school in the mornings, and it was like, you talk about like how it becomes a part of you.
Mm-hmm.
I used to love the feeling of like going in, working out with the older guys. I was, weak and skinny and everything, but you'd shower there, and then everybody else would come into school, and you're like, I already did this.
Yeah.
You guys don't even know that I just did that. And I'm starting the day with you. And there's just something mentally that was great about that.
So working out, it that was a habit that got instilled early.
It's a habit that I don't think, will ever go away. I have never gotten too far. There have been times when I've been maybe not quite on point, but I never drift too far from it. And it's honestly, it's only out of just because I feel better if I do something. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be crazy, by the way. I mean, like when I was living in where Jay lives, when we met, that little gym at the shores.
Yep.
So our kids were really young, and we lived on the ground floor. So you could go over to the gym. It was like, literally walking 45 seconds to get there. There's no excuse.
Yeah.
And I would do my workouts in a lot of times 25 minutes. And I would just go in, and Chad Waterbury,
Yeah.
He'd always make fun of me because I looked like I jumped in the pool. I would just be drenched with sweat. At that time, I was doing kind of like I had done CrossFit for a year, and I kind of took some of those things, and I just did my own thing where I would just never rest. If I was doing chest, then I'd go to back, and that was my rest for my chest. And I would go through the whole thing. I'd get it done, and I'd get out, and that was it.
How have your workouts evolved these
It's
days?
changed now. So Jay, we were talking about before, I don't know if we were rolling, but the Netflix comedy I told you about, Huge in France, I played a guy who was like a gym rat, and he's like not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but he really liked to go to the gym. And I got it, and it was like a very quick turnaround where all of a sudden I had like 22 days where I knew I was going to be shooting 2 different sex scenes, buck naked, and I was like, fuck, I got to get. So I called Jay, and I'm like, dude, I got to get in a good shape.
Yeah.
And I'm always in okay.
Now, do they
shape,
tell you that? Like, do directors, producers?
No, I mean, they didn't.
Or they're like, hey, we like you as you are, but you're like, fuck that, I'm going to be in better shape.
I think if you're doing like a Marvel movie, they're going to say like, this is
right
in the contract. You got to do. I would imagine,
you got to get jacked,
or at that point, you just know that's what you got to do. For me, like nobody said anything, but I was like, I look fine, but I don't really look like this guy that's like taking this kid to the gym, and like there's scenes where I'm taking him to the gym. Like I'm like, he's got to be like a peacock. Like waxed everything. And I called Jay and I was like, listen, man, I got to do this. And he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to get big, but I also want to get ripped. He's like, you're not going to get big in 3 weeks. He's like, you're just going to get shredded. And he's like, here's what you're going to do. And he just like, I'm telling you, man, he is here's amazing. He was just like, you're going to eat, he's like, you're going to eat grilled chicken breast. You're going to eat white jasmine rice and steamed spinach. You're going to do this, on the post-workout meal, you're going to have the jasmine rice and the dinner. And he gave me this whole program. And the workout program was 6 days a week. It was basically push, pull, or it was like, chest, tris, what was it? Chest, back, tris, and then shoulders and
like buys
and legs.
And legs.
And you just go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Got it.
And then Sunday was a day of rest.
Take a day of rest.
And I did that, and really the nutrition part was where all of a sudden, like I would send him, and I was like, this is embarrassing, don't show these to anybody, but I'd like send him a picture of like day 7, like, like this. And I was gradually it worked.
So it helps to be coachable. Like if you want to be successful in anything, it helps to be coachable. Where you just reached out to Jay,
totally.
Hey coach, I got 22 days, I got to get leaner, more jacked.
And he just, because here's my thing. I am not naturally the guy that wants to measure my stuff and be. I work out so that I can play with my kids when I'm 90. That's my thing.
Yeah.
I don't eat like a total idiot, but I'm not crazy about it. I'm kind of like somewhere in the middle toward healthy.
Yeah.
And I've gotten increasingly more healthy, I think, as I've gotten older, just because I feel better that way.
Sure.
But with someone like Jay, I mean, yeah, it's like I just said, tell me exactly what to do. I will do exactly what you tell me to do. And I got to tell you, the workout routine was kind of somewhat normal for me. The eating like I would be grilling like 20 chicken breasts and cutting them up, and Deirdre's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, we're going to a friend's barbecue, and at one point, and if you see the show, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's funny. And this guy is obsessed, and he's like, he's totally crazy.
Yeah.
And he's an actor. He's, so it's like sending up everything about business. But at one point, in real life, we're going to our friend's barbecue, and Deirdre had put a beach bag together, and I, unbeknownst to her, had like chopped up my grilled chicken and my white rice and my spinach, and I put it in Tupperware, and I hid it on the bottom of the beach bag. She's going to get the kids, and she's like going to put sunblock on them, and she's like, what the fuck? You're not bringing this to the go. I'm like, I gotta eat that. Yeah. That's what I gotta eat. She's like, this is embarrassing. I'm like, I'll go on the side of the house and eat it. God. And if you see the show, those scenes are like in it. This ended up being such great character work for me because I was so self-obsessed with it because I had to be, and that's what the character was.
And that's what the character was.
And it was perfect. So I think, like, to your point of, did they ask me to get this way? No, but when you look at a script and you're like, these are the givens of the script, I gotta believably be this guy. What am I gonna do? You start to then reverse engineer to get yourself there.
Sure.
And in doing that, that's like half the homework.
And that's huge in France.
That's huge in France.
Right. Yeah. So I'm waiting. All the episodes haven't come out yet.
No, they came out April 12th. It came out. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Netflix show, so it's
perfect.
Like it comes out right away.
Love it.
You can binge it, and yeah.
And then we're gonna binge that.
Yeah.
So you've Sopranos. I mean, you had a recurring role in The Sopranos.
Yeah.
You were in Reese.
Oh yeah, Hot Pursuit with Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, Reese Witherspoon, Hot Pursuit, and that was one of the more funnier roles that I had seen you in.
This role will is much funnier, I think. This one will.
And then in Goliath with Billy Bob Thornton, you were a dark, twisted person.
Yeah.
How do you go from being so comedic and funny? I mean, you just turned it on here a few seconds ago to then. Like, is it just truly acting, or do you go and find this pain or darkness?
Kind of, all.
Like, I know you as a friend.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, in Goliath, I was like, oh, he's just such a bad human being. Like, that guy, which then I would turn to die. I'm like, that's our friend Matt. But as this person, he's such a bad human being. Like, I don't like him, right?
Yeah.
Which is kudos to you. Like, you do such a good job bringing that guy to life.
Thank you.
Like the despicable murderer to life.
I mean, well, that guy is interesting because Danny Loomis, because what I tried to do with that guy is he was the way that whole season was laid out. Really, it was like the shit rolled downhill. So I was getting beaten on by Tom Wyatt, the crazy rich billionaire that I worked for. And then I'm going and beating on my buddy Keith Roman, the cop, and I'm terrible to him, but then I'm also getting beaten. So what I tried to do, and there's one episode where I'm told to go kill Roman out like in the desert, and I can't do it. And my thought was like, how can I find the humanity in this guy? And luckily it's in the writing. That was going to be my answer to you is like, if you look at all the roles that I've played over the years and you put them back to back to back to back, you would go like, oh, those are all different guys, hopefully, but there's a common thread that it looks like me, and there are some qualities that are, you can trace throughout. But the material ends up being the roadmap in. So it's kind of like you take the givens of the script, and the better the writing, the easier it is to do this. But you take those givens and you go through like a detective and figure out like everything that's said about your character and what you're, who your character is, where did they come from, what do they want, what do they want in the scene, what do they want overall, and it's kind of melding that with where's my jumping off point with this character, because that's how you make it, in my opinion, honest and genuine and authentic. Is it's gotta cost you something. You gotta reveal something about yourself. So you can't play that guy if you don't see some of those qualities in yourself and admit that.
Wow.
So it takes a lot of the hard work is like pulling your shit out and taking an honest look at yourself and going like, for the Jason Allen Ross, the Netflix guy, where am I, that self-involved actor who's just all consumed with myself? With Danny Loomis, it's like, where do I have that in me? Where do I have that evil lurking in me? And drawing parallels and like and meeting the role so that it's a melding of, it's my interpretation of it, but I got to bring something to it.
I'm going to go on a limb and say that being an actor is probably one of the greatest self-discovery adventures you can go on.
I would imagine,
because you have to pull out the humor, you have to pull out the pain, the asshole, the jerk, right.
I think writing is as well, because it's different, because I guess acting, it's also personal, because you're really going like, here I am, like this is not me, but it's also partially me. But the funny thing about that is, when I was thinking about launching the podcast, I had talked to Jay, and Jay, I'd go like, how do you do this? How'd you get this started? And he was giving me advice, and I was hemming and hawing, and I was really scared to do it. And at one point I was with my brother and my sister, and I'm talking about it, and I hadn't launched it yet. And my brother's like, so what's the problem? Like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of scared and he's like, you've like, like, my role on Scandal was like, I played a,
Why don't you tell her?
I played a sex worker who I'm bending over at points.
Right.
I do a lot of stuff that's unsavory stuff on, national television in front of millions of people. And my brother's like, dude, he's like, you made out with a guy in front of millions of people. You're afraid to do your podcast? And I was like, yeah, but that's Shonda Rhimes. I'm interpreting material that's been given to me, whereas the podcast is like me. And that's exposing. Yeah. So it's different kinds of exposure, And as an actor, I think anything in the arts, you have to. It's all self-discovery and then self-expression, So you gotta kind of like look yourself in the mirror, which is not always easy.
Of all the shows or films that you've done, what's been like the thing that stood out? Like, man, I really had a blast doing that.
I mean, Huge in France was, I know it's recent in my mind, and I'm actually now doing the one I told you about, the Showtime one, but the Huge in France was that character. They gave me so much to do. So I what I loved about it was, one, I kind of loved this character because he took himself so seriously, and it's so fun to laugh at him and then laugh at myself. And then it's also sends up like all the ridiculousness of LA and it sends up a lot of things that I find. I just really love the tone of it. And I felt like they gave me a character who started in one place. When you see him in the first glimpse, you get an idea, and then they just take me through the ringer. And he comes out on the other side, and you have a different opinion of him. And along the way, it's like full of ups and downs. And I got to the end of the season, we were shooting it, and we finished in Paris. We had to go like the last 2 episodes, and we get done, and I go looking around, and I'm with the 2 guys that were like the writer directors, and I go, holy shit, I'm Kramer. Like, if this was Seinfeld, I'm Kramer. I'm the
yeah.
guy who's like, I was always in some kind of like crisis.
Yeah.
So it was like really high, really low. And it was fun to play because a lot of the things that I've done have been more dramatic and subtle. And this was like it was bigger than, so it was new to me, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the notes I took for myself was that you've kind of learned to rise to the occasion. And I think one great example of that was this podcast, right? 10,000 No's. Because, hey, listen, someone gives you a script and you're an actor. Well, I'll act out your script.
Yeah.
The podcast, you literally had to go, here's what it's going to be about. Here's what I'm not going to cover. Here's the people I want to interview. And, it really does expose you further. In what areas of life, like, have you had to really rise to the occasion when you thought, like, I'm out of my zone of genius. This isn't a comfortable place for me to be?
Well, one area, just pops into my head that like I've talked to you about is I've kind of come to the realization, and maybe it's through the podcast and everything, I've come to the realization that I always liked to think of myself as this Renaissance man that could do all these different things. And I think there are a lot of different things I can do, but I've started to go, like I talked to you about this. I was like, I need like a back of the house guy, or girl.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy that's crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's. I can do it. It's not my specialty. And you were the one, you're like, yeah, you got to find I don't know how you describe, I don't know if you were the one that said you got to find your whas or whatever, but like the Steve Jobs why, you got to find someone. You basically said like, yeah, you could be the front man to the thing, so I think I'm realizing like there are certain things that I gravitate toward that I really love and naturally maybe they're just like you say, zone of genius. And then there's certain things where you got to go like, okay, I need help in other areas.
Yeah. Have you found the person?
I have a couple of people right now, and it's been through the podcast that they've come to me that are potentially two of whom I'm kind of working with, but it's not like not fully there yet.
Yeah. Gotcha. What have I not asked you that I should have asked you that would benefit our audience? Or they might get a kick out of, or well, actually, I did have a question I was going to ask you, but fuck it, we're going to ask while the cameras are rolling. When you,
I'm scared.
No. I mean, you brought it up when on Scandal when you played a gay male prostitute.
Yeah.
Like that's really. And I get it. It's a script. It's a role, and you go into character. Like I could, I guess in theory, I could understand that. But now I gotta kiss a guy. I gotta get into, as you said, unsavory positions. While naked.
Yeah.
Was there any hesitation?
Oh, dude, you ever see Vacation?
Yeah.
With Chevy Chase?
Yeah.
This is crazy. This is crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Is that what happened?
Oh, dude.
Okay.
So that job came right after. You talk about no's and rejections and pitfalls and all that stuff. So I had been on a real roll of working, and I shot Hot Pursuit.
Yeah.
And I was in New Orleans. I was just about done with the shoot, and I had done this pilot for an NBC show with, I won't even say who it was with, but she's a big name. But anyway, I was looking forward to, the director had said, your stuff's great. Your stuff is testing through the roof, all this stuff. I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome. This is my next job. 2 weeks to go in shooting Hot Pursuit, and I get a call. They're reconfiguring the cast for that pilot, and you're out.
Oh, wow.
And it was for the longer story that I'm not going into here. So all of a sudden, I'm like, I don't have work. I'm in New York with Deirdre and the kids, and I start schlepping into the city for auditions. I'm like, I don't know what my next job is. Before a job, I was working on Teen Wolf, and that was coming back in the following February, but it was like a long time off. I'm like, what am I doing right now? So I'm looking for the next job, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this call comes in. You have an offer for the, and I don't get a lot of offers, but you have an offer for this role on Scandal, but they're not telling us what it is. They want you to, they're going to send you the material. I'm like, whatever. What's it going to be? You know?
So an offer is different than a audition because
in that they give it to
they're
like
saying, we want this guy. We want Matt Del Negro.
The casting director knew me. I mean, what does that say? What she wants to put me as there? You got to ask yourself. No, and it was actually to play her husband in real life. The casting director's husband is Jeff Perry, who played Cyrus on. So she's like, no, this is a compliment. I was pairing him with someone. So anyway, I get the offer and I read the thing. Like the funny thing is, we get off the beach. We're in New York, and Deirdre it comes up as an email, just with like a page from the thing. And so I go, oh, read it while I'm driving. The kids are in the back. And she's like, you know, interior, you know, hotel bar, you know, Cyrus is at the thing, you know, Michael orders, you know, vodka, whatever. And I'm like, okay. It's like Cyrus, Michael, and I go, and I'm driving, and I go, oh, fuck.
It clicked.
And she goes, what? And I go, I know where this is going. And she's like, what? And she's like, cut to hotel room. I was like, oh, man. Woo! And I'm like, you know, I got to go do it. Yeah. And my thought was, listen, any role is an opportunity to go explore whatever you're exploring. And literally a month before, on the set of Hot Pursuit, one of the guys I was with was like, I wouldn't play gay. And I go, why? Well, you play a killer. He goes, I'm not doing it. And I said, but you'd play all these other, you play a killer. You're not a killer. Like, what? Why? You're an actor. You know, it's like this is what can you do to get into it? And I was like, well, here it is. It's being thrown my way. It's a challenge. And I thought, there's a lot of guys out there that can play the lawyers, cops, doctors that I've played. How many will have the balls to go in and do something that's going to be vulnerable and is going to be exposing? And I chose to do it. And I said, I know she's known to be a great writer. And I didn't really know a lot of Shonda Rhimes' shows before that. And it ended up being a great thing for my career. And Jeff Perry is one of the founding members of Steppenwolf Theater. He's a great actor. And it was actually a great experience. But, you know, it was like, from that day on the beach, it was literally 4 days later, I'm in a Four Seasons in Woodland Hills, I think it was, or Westlake Village, wax chest, like with all these people in the crew, and I'm like, okay, good to meet you guys. You know, like, here we go, man. And it, you know, it's like,
that is nuts, man.
That is.
Like I don't think people understand what actors and actresses, what talent has to go through for us to get the final benefit of seeing you guys on TV or on the screen, entertaining us.
Well, what's funny about it though is like all of that, you know, whatever role you're playing though, it's the same thing. It's like it boils down to, what's my jumping off point with that character? Where do I? And you it's the same process of getting in there.